What's going on, Petey? Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Spinner Rack. I'm here with my boy, Petey. Say what's up, Petey. How's it going?
What's going on?
Hey, today we're going to discuss Storm being an Omega level mutant. She's going to be joining in the fall. She's going to be joining the Avengers as well as having her own solo title. So, of course, once again, I have our resident X-Men expert here, Petey, that I really want to discuss this with. Hopefully he can give us some guidance regarding Storm and what's his thought on her new role, particularly joining the Avengers and having her own solo title. By the way, she's considered an Omega level mutant now. Let's talk
Well,
about your take on that.
um, I think in how the X-Men dealt with Storm, the fact
And the
that
movies or in the comics? Sorry, I just have to jump in that because she's treated very differently in the movies and in the comics.
I'm talking about the comics because this is a comic they're talking about.
Right. Okay. I'm just saying that she was totally eviscerated in the movies.
I think we've already established that Halle Berry wanted to have her irrigate area in Africa, and that was the key to getting her back.
Right.
And they got rid of it. So no fault on the actress, fault on Marvel's connected to it. Even though it's Fox, they still had Feige going to the meetings to see what they were doing as exec producer. So people were okay with that, not no one fighting for it outside of Halle Berry and the director of Argyle, right? So ultimately there's Matthew Vaughn, right? So Matthew Vaughn is the only one that was trying to back it, and they say, why don't we do this? This is good. Like, no, that's just to get her to do it. But ultimately, the Omega level mutant comes from the X-Men kind of looking at Storm and being like, there's like an Iron Fist comic book. I think the first, I guess Burns tryout for the X-Men, where Storm coming to a party, she's able to. That's the other thing. She's able to take her with her powers, take her costume, and change the unstable molecules with her powers. She comes to this thing, changes her outfit, and she gets hit in the face with a potato salad thing within this fight. And then the X-Men and Iron Fist turn and said, "Uh-oh, I think they all felt they were all going to be in trouble." And then Storm makes this big hell of a storm that takes Iron Fist out and then drops him into Cyclops' arms. And when Cyclops gets there and he says, well, I see where the other guys go. Storm, like, why would you do this? And she was like, it was just this something that, and she couldn't even describe what had happened, what her anger. So that was the initial point where you started to see that Storm was not someone to joke with. When she kind of became, the other problem is Chris Claremont also trying to give her a hook, even though her hook was that she was from Africa and she was kind of had like a Beverly Hillbillies type of thing where she didn't really understand clothing and some other American customs. So she was kind of like why do I need to, and this dress is ridiculous. So she'd be like kind of what. So anyway, so in this thing, slowly to give her an edge, they gave her a background in Harlem, and then they also gave her claustrophobia. So kind of saying someone's a mega level mutant that has bad claustrophobia is kind of it kind of doesn't work together. But at some point, Chris Claremont kind of connected her powers as saying it's weather, right? So weather would be kind of like a sunny day. So in one story, he made her become a sun, which doesn't really relate to the weather, but that would suggest the mega level mutant power or the actual lightning and actual, obviously you see how tsunamis can turn over things. So that's where the mega level, I have no problem with that. I just think Storm has a great personality. Her, even the early part where she was kind of iffy on American customs and that sort of thing and kind of went about her own way. I didn't need her to be a thief in Cairo. But I think the initial thing that Ling Wen had at Dave Cockrum, where she was kind of this person, the fish out of water, but she was a goddess. So it wasn't like the Beverly Hillbillies, she was a goddess. And I think turning her into Punk
Is she a goddess?
Storm,
But that's how people thought she was a goddess.
huh?
She's not a goddess. She just
Talk to people as if she was a goddess. And she prays to that sort of thing. So she is this person who her power is interpreted as a gift from the heavens type of deal. So it's like that's the angle. Obviously, seeing the rest of the world would kind of take that down, but still, she would have that presence, which is important. So in my mind, I'm all for her. In her power level, she should be considered a mega level. I don't really get into that because you don't get to do stories when you're worried about the power level of a character. Storm was the leader of the X-Men. At some one point before they made her and Cyclops rivals, they were, Cyclops treated her as almost his second command and/or co-captain. So she was a big part of the X-Men. I don't need to know that she needs to be in the Avengers, but the Avengers is Marvel's premier comic book, so they would think to add that to it. But then it kind of when Storm went into the Fantastic Four, and the Thing asked if Storm had a weave on, and Storm was indignant. I don't have a weave on. Like Storm wouldn't really know what a weave is. And at the same time, being in Africa, where they kind of braid and do all that stuff, it wouldn't be a big issue to her because she's seen people add hair on. It's not like the stuff that goes on with people in America, but they kind of just do that. So having her interact with the Avengers, there's no real Avenger that I really want her to interact with. So I'm not really too crazy about this. But her getting her own series, ultimately, I would really like to, the life death portion where she went back to Africa. Try to figure out those stories where we get to this aloof Storm that kind of gets to her character. But most of the time when they do Storm, they kind of make her one of the guys, which is what Chris Claremont ultimately wanted her to become. And she almost turned her into a real street person, like almost a Morlock herself, even though she was leader of them. I just think there's so much good portion of her personality when she was a protector of life. That sort of thing was kind of weirded out by Wolverine being someone who was ready to kill people all the time, and where they found their friendship was somewhere in between that. Now Storm will send Wolverine out to go out to kill people. Go out there and kill them, that type of deal. So I think she's a great character. I think she's very powerful, and I think people have bought into more of the other stuff of her being able to do fighting and all this other stuff. So those are my thoughts. But all for her getting serious. But we'll say the X-Men are reactors. So that's why when you see the X-Men movies, it centers around Wolverine reacting to the stuff that he finds ridiculous. That's how you deal with these characters, but they work better in a group, right? And the group that she works best with is the X-Men. Same with Cyclops. It's kind of hard putting Cyclops in the Avengers because he probably wouldn't say anything while he was there. He'd probably go into action in 2 seconds, but ultimately he'd be there and he probably wouldn't say much. And when they need him, he'd go into action, but ultimately they probably think, well, who's the stiff? And then they're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that out of him, so.
Okay, that's interesting what you said. I believe Screen Rant had a point that Storm is only one of 3 superheroes who's been a member of the X-Men, Avengers, and Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't.
Wolverine, Spider-Man, and her. So it's a pretty elite company. And the very fact that, look, I think Storm has been totally, there's been a disservice for her, particularly on screen, where they have not done a really good job of centering her to be who she is and how strong she comes across in the comics and other side. She ran the X-Men, the second group of X-Men, right? The giant, from the giant annual.
Later, I guess halfway in the run, she was the leader, and then Cyclops and her split the leadership.
Before Cyclops and them came back, she was leading the X-Men, though.
No. When the new X-Men came around, Cyclops was the leader, and Cyclops didn't. I think when he got married, that's when he ultimately gave up leadership. I think during that period, Chris Claremont kind of wanted the X-Men where they could go left, they could do things wrong. So Xavier was gone, Cyclops was gone. Storm had said to Magneto to go to what's that thing? To the Hellfire Club to make an alliance. Storm wasn't necessarily protecting the Morlocks. So there was a lot of bad things that happened during her tenure, but that was also to kind of show that the mutant kind can make mistakes type of deal, and that's why Magneto Xavier was gotten rid of, and Xavier and Magneto was there because Chris Claremont said it himself. Magneto, did he go good? We're not sure. You know, there's always opportunity that they could like have him be good because they did a lot of stories where they tried to show him be good with the Avengers, good with the Fantastic, do right thing around those guys. But then when he needed to, he could have Magneto do something bad. But the storylines were getting dull.
Okay. So I come back to Storm, the very fact that I'm not saying that she can't be a mega level, but one issue that I have is that going to the Avengers is you already have someone who controls the weather, being Thor, right? So for me, it's when you have a team, you want to have a team with complementary abilities, and hers, she's the mistress of weather, rain, water. She can make things into ice. And yet it's like, why are they doing it? Is it just let's make her just like Spider-Man and Wolverine, let's do it, a gimmick, or are they really saying, hey, there's a story here? And this is where I always go back to: is there a story with her being part of the Avengers? Why with the whole fall of X, there's a gathering? Why that may be part of the whole thing? Why she's there hiding herself? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the story's going to be, but I just felt that, hey, a normal place for her to really be is the X-Men. Of course, after the Avengers is going to, I don't know if it's after or in concurrent with the Avengers there, she's supposed to have her own solo title, which is interesting. Which hopefully will be something that's successful and will continue, because it's something that she had not had that has worked successfully. I think she's had a limited issue, right? A limited.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all the X-Men got a limited series. I think Cyclops got an adventure of, of Cyclops and Jean Grey, so they had that kind of storyline going. I think that went two. They did two miniseries of that, but I think they found out with the X-Men, it's kind of better for a lot of the characters to do a series of miniseries. Whereas Wolverine, you could find someone that want to do a Wolverine story from time to time. I think Larry Hama was on the book for like forever, so you could always find someone to do a Wolverine story. Storm, Cyclops, Rogue. Rogue had a mini. They're a little harder to do. I mean, Rogue didn't have a first name for who knows how long, so she was called supposedly. Her parents were Mystique and Destiny, and all they called her was Rogue. Like, they called her a code name. It just really didn't make any sense. But they obviously in the X-Men cartoon, they've been playing up that Rogue is the daughter of Mystique and the adopted daughter. So kind of harder to do with these other characters, but the blend that works is with the X-Men. So I don't think, and the idea of her, this thing, they did that in the X-Men in the 90s, where they had X-Force rolling, and then someone on editorial said, okay, now Cannonball's gonna join the X-Men. He's gonna graduate to the X-Men. Like, I'm saying, no, he's X-Force. They're on the outside of the regular series, just taking action. That's the whole point of it. No, he's gonna now become an X-Men and join the major team. He's gonna step up to be a major. Like, that's because some writer or the editor decided that we need a young person in there. We want this guy in there. He's kind of up to snuff, or people, I'm not sure who wanted to do it. It was ridiculous to me. I think that led Fabian Ascenza to leave. But to say that she's like, by joining, I don't have it up now. It said, by joining the Avengers, Storm Star continues to rise, showcasing her as one of Marvel's most powerful and cherished characters of current fandom culture. Like, Storm was big enough to have her versus Wonder Woman in Marvel versus DC. Like, you can't get any bigger than that. Like, having her join the Avengers, I understand the Avengers is Marvel's premier title, and when they couldn't do anything with the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, they decided to put Spider-Man and Wolverine into there. But at the same time, those are licensed characters, licensed out to, they would be more promoting Sony and Fox. But they like, we're not gonna not do those characters. They retired Wolverine for a little while, but all while Bendis was doing Wolverine, he had his own comic book, multiple number ones, that sort of thing. So Storm joining them is kind of hard because we kind of lose. We don't have any sort of characterization that we would want to see, and that's the thing. So Dwayne McDuffie, who was R.I.P., was a black guy. At the same time, he wasn't able to capture Storm's true personality, where the goddess aspect and having more interesting stuff happen, just instead of Storm trying to prove to Ben Grimm that she doesn't have a weave. It's a story. It was it's in there, and people look at it and say, "This is so good."
That line is kind of ridiculous. So I mean, overall, were we supportive of Storm joining the Avengers and becoming one of only 3 Marvel superheroes to be on the 3 premier teams, or is it just another way for them to make money?
I don't know if there's a way to make money, but I'll say what you said about having too many X-Men's, that sort of thing. There's so many Avengers. I don't need Storm to join. I'm gonna do something quick, right? At Hasbro Plus, you can go get some action figures, right? So I got an action figure right here. Is this going to show up, or it's freezing too much? I got Storm from when Jim Lee first started, which had the short hair and whatnot, right? So I got this Storm here. She is not an Avenger, but you know who is an Avenger? Captain Marvel, right? This has waited many years for them finally get an action figure. Why not put Captain Marvel back or Photon back into the Avengers?
Oh, you're using a Photon name now.
I'm just saying, whatever name that you guys want to use for her, why not put her in the Avengers and say she's, on the rise? She was in a movie. Actually, if you go get were you a fan of Doctor Doom's look in Secret Wars when he got all the powers?
Being that he's not my favorite character, I did like the look.
You saying Doom is not your favorite character? Yes or no?
I don't want to answer that.
So if you go to Hasbro Plus, the action figure of Captain Marvel comes with the Doom from Secret Wars action figure at the same time. So I'm saying you got this character. She's an Avenger, and she's also a black character, so you can put her in there. But see where it goes. I mean, this someone decided they wanted this, and they want to highlight them. I think Storm was also, being that she was in Avengers versus Marvel versus DC as the person going against Wonder Woman. In that amalgam, she became Wonder Woman. Like Storm herself is a character that is a popular character. It's just trying to figure out what I was okay with the idea of them doing a mini series where we had Storm as in Cairo, but what can you do? This is how it is. Now, when I show you this, just keep in mind the Doom is actually a lot more shiny than you see him in this thing here, but so yeah, but this action figure is pretty rock solid to what you see here.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I bought a bunch of things. I bought that, and I bought the X-Men the ones with Storm. It also has who is it? Who's that person? A Storm. It also has Forge and a stacked Jubilee. She's a little more developed than she's ever been for some strange reason, but it's probably the same molds. But this is even shinier if you see the actual doll. But I think Doom's armor is kind of like like iron. So yeah. But I finally got this. I was happy to get it, and it's a pretty good one. So yeah, I guess that's what I mean, that's my thing of who I would want to be in there. But what do I know?
All right, so hey, let's wrap this up. Thank you everybody for listening. If you like what you heard, give us a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Spin a rack.
Out.